Let's continue to talk about this with EJ Antoni. He's an Unleash Prosperity Senior Fellow and the Heritage Foundation Public Finance Economist. So with the impending departure of Elon Musk, do you think that's going to cripple in any way the work of Doge? He says it needs to continue.
Well, and he's absolutely right. It definitely needs to continue. There's a reason why the government budget is as many trillions of dollars as it is. It is much too large because it has much too much abuse, corruption, fraud, waste, etc. And Doge is proving that with literally being only weeks on the job and having uncovered hundreds of billions of dollars, again, of waste in all those different categories. And it really is astonishing to me when I hear mostly Democrats, but sometimes Republicans too, talk about Doge cutting vital government spending, whatever that is, but no one can actually point to any specific examples. They'll throw around phrases, they'll throw around very broad categories like Medicare, but they can't actually point, again, to any specific examples. Now, to your question, John, I think it's absolutely vital that the work continues, whether Mr. Musk is at the helm or not. And to that end, I think he has put together a phenomenal team of a very, very motivated young guys who are very excited about all the work that they're doing and are very committed to it, regardless of any kind of personal cost that those individuals are seeing.
Yeah, you talked about some of the so-called vital programs that Doge is accused of cutting, and we have a scroll that we can put on the screen of some of the programs that Doge has found and apparently is going to be able to cut, starting with $20 million to a U.S. aid program that's produced Sesame Street in Iraq, that kind of thing. So he's going back apparently to the private sector, back to Tesla. Obviously, his company has taken a big hit based on what he's done, in the public service. Give us your thoughts on that. Just, what's happened to Tesla vehicles, Tesla showrooms, Tesla stock.
Well, John, unfortunately, much of this has to do with actions by radical leftists who essentially, instead of having a public debate, have chosen to just use fear and intimidation tactics and engage in nothing less than domestic terrorism. And I don't say that lightly, but I'm sorry, that's what it is. When you are committing acts of violence to try to hurt people financially or even hurt them physically, all for the end of trying to get your political view across, of using this violence as a cudgel to beat everyone else into submission until they agree with you, I'm sorry, that's domestic terrorism. Now, in terms of why has Tesla stock been down, let's not forget that stocks generally, especially the Mag 7, have really gotten beat up with the whole tariff fight that's been going on. Now, a lot of the market has recovered those losses. So I think there's more than one thing at play here. It's not simply the fact that Elon is not devoting all of his time exclusively to Tesla. It is things like the domestic terrorism that's going on. It is the broader stock market volatility. So I am not by any means counting Tesla down and out here.
He talked about some of the gravy train programs that Doge has found, programs that would like to continue running. He spoke about it on My View with Laura Trump. Listen.
The people that are receiving the billions of dollars of waste and fraud want to keep receiving it. The people doing the bad things want to keep getting the money. Really, some very basic things need to happen. We need to have, obviously, a secure border. We need to have safe cities. We need to have sensible spending. Politics is a blood sport. So they're going to come up with whatever attacks they can to destroy the public perception of someone.
It was Ronald Reagan who said something, paraphrasing here, something like, if you want proof of eternal life, just look at a federal program. It's pretty hard to kill a lot of these programs, isn't it, EJ?
It's exactly right, John. And what happens is so often these programs will outlive their usefulness because, as you said, you just can't get rid of them. At least there's no efficient way to do so. I mean, my goodness, speaking of efficiency, look at what Doge uncovered in terms of how we retire government employees, where we have to carry physical paper records down a mine shaft in Pennsylvania to where these things are housed. I mean, this is absolutely ludicrous, but these are the very commonplace things that Doge is uncovering literally every single day. And as we bring more efficiency to government. We're cutting costs. Virtually all of the reduction in government spending, government purchases, I should say, from the first quarter GDP report that we got last week, John, nearly all of those reductions in government spending are accounted for through the cuts made in Doge. So this is clearly having an impact, and it's having it already. And again, these guys are only weeks on the job.
But, especially on the Democrat side of the aisle, Elon Musk and his team are portrayed as this heartless bogeyman that's, killing programs.
But again, going back to what we said earlier, John, I would love to hear from literally anyone on the left a single specific thing that Doge has cut, which we don't actually want them to cut. And conversely, Doge has come up with a very long list, some of which you were just scrolling on the screen earlier, things that have been cut that should have been cut because we never should have been wasting taxpayer money on these things in the first place. When Doge finds that there are all of these people over 125 years old receiving Social Security benefits, clear fraud, and the Democrats are up in arms about it, I think that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, that was quite a discovery, that one especially. EJ Antoni, thanks.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.